Welcome to day 9 of UPSC revision for 2027. Revision for previous year question papers of mains. So today I will continue my GS3 from question number 6. And as you know, the format is like I revise 5 questions from one GS paper, and today it is GS3, 5 questions from GS4. So earlier I did it the same with GS1 and GS2, and those are finished. You can watch that video. And thereafter I continue with essay. So I will go with one essay for 1 week, and thereafter on Sunday I write the test. So yesterday I completed first 5 questions, and now I will start with the next 5 questions, that is question number 6. So let's get started. How can India achieve energy independence through clean technology by 2047? How can biotechnology play a crucial role in this endeavor? Achieving energy independence by 2047, marking a century of independence, requires India to transition away from fossil fuel imports by aggressively scaling up clean technologies and advanced biological innovations. Pathways via clean technology, green hydrogen grid expansion, scale up renewable powered electrolyzers under the National Green Hydrogen Mission to systematically decarbonize heavy industry and long-haul transport logistics. Next generation storage solution. Localize the manufacturing of advanced solid-state batteries and pumped hydro projects to seamlessly manage the intermittency of massive solar grids. Crucial crux, role of biotechnology, advanced biofuels production, engineering high-yield microbial strains and enzymes to convert agricultural residues into 2G, 3G ethanol, significantly scaling up national fuel blending programs. Biomass valorization, utilizing specialized anaerobic digestion technologies to transform urban solid waste and cattle manure into compressed biogas under the SAT framework. Synthesizing deep technological switches with biotechnology will secure India's green self-reliance while advancing towards Niti Aayog's net zero mandate. What is carbon capture? What is carbon capture, utilization, and storage? What is the potential role of CCUS in tackling climate change? Carbon capture, utilization, and storage is an industrial process that involves trapping waste carbon dioxide from large point sources, compressing it, and either utilizing it productively or permanently storing it underground. Potential role in tackling climate change. Decarbonizing hard to abate sectors. CCUS provides the only practical technology capable of mitigating deep processes emissions in heavy manufacturing sectors like steel, cement, and chemical production. Enabling negative emissions. When integrated with bioenergy system, it can actively remove historical carbon dioxide directly from the atmosphere, helping stabilize global warming. Stabilize global warming targets. Circular economy opportunities. Circular economic opportunities. Captured carbon can be permanently bound in building concrete or recycled into advanced synthetic e-fuels, turning industrial waste into resource inputs. As highlighted by the IPCC, scaling up global CCUS infrastructure is absolutely essential to bridge the immediate transition gap towards absolute global decarbonization. Seawater intrusion in the coastal aquifers is a major concern in India. What are the causes of seawater intrusion and the remedial measures to combat this hazard? Seawater intrusion is the movement of saline water into fresh coastal aquifers. This phenomena degrades vital groundwater quality and threatens drinking water security along India's extensive 7,500 kilometer coastline. Hold on. These are like my answer. These are not copied from any coaching centers model answer notebook. Excess pumping sea level rise. This is the flow diagram you can see. I will not gonna read it, and let's continue with the causes. Causes of seawater intrusion: unregulated aquifer depletion, excessive pumping of coastal underground water for agriculture, and rapid urbanization lowers the inland water table, drawing dense marine water inland. Climate driven sea level rise: anthropogenic climate change pushes sea levels higher, increasing the lateral pressure on fragile coastal aquifers. Destruction of natural buffers: widespread degradation of coastal wetlands, natural sand dunes, and mangrove networks removes physical barriers that block seawater advance. Remedial measures to combat the hazard: artificial aquifer recharge, construct dedicated injection wells, and check dams to force fresh water underground, creating a hydraulic barrier against marine entry. Strict regulatory oversight: rigorously enforce CGWA guidelines to restrict deep groundwater drilling near coastlines while actively promoting rainwater harvesting. Adopting integrated coastal zone management models is essential to protect vital underground assets and support SDG 6 goals. Question 9. Terrorism is a global scourge. How has it manifested in India? Elaborate with contemporary examples. What are the countermeasures adopted by the state? Explain. Terrorism remains a complex challenge to India's internal security, shifting from traditional localized asymmetric threats to highly networked, technologically advanced transitional security challenges. Manifestation with contemporary examples. Cross-border infiltration, persistent proxy warfare in Jammu and Kashmir, utilizing highly trained infiltrators targeting security installations. Cyber radicalization and financing, dark web platforms, encrypted channels, and unstructured hawala or cryptocurrency routes are used to recruit youth and move terror funds. Left-wing radicalism, ongoing insurgency in remote forest corridors targeting state infrastructure and security forces. Countermeasures adopted by the state: legal and institutional framework, tactical and operational steps. Stringent legislation: enforcement of the UAPA and NIA Act to dismantle cross-border financing links. Dedicated operational arms: the NIA leads centralized terror probes while energy hubs ensure rapid response. Intelligence integration: MSC and NatGrid networks synchronize real-time inputs across security wings. Border security hardening: comprehensive integrated border management system CIBMS deploy advanced sensors. Combining hard security measures with proactive community de-radicalization program is vital to permanently defeat evolving networks of global terror. Question 10. The government of India recently stated that left-wing extremism will be eliminated by 2026. What do you understand by LWE and how are the people affected by it? What measures have been taken by the government to eliminate left-wing extremism? The left-wing extremism or Naxalism is an armed insurgency rooted in Maoist ideology that seeks to overthrow the democratic state through violent revolution, primarily operating within India's central tribal forest corridors. Impact on affected population. Development deficit. Insurgents regularly destroy critical infrastructure like schools, roads, and telecom towers, cutting off remote communities from basic public amenities. Humanitarian violations. Tribal communities are caught in the crossfire between security operations and insurgent violence, suffering from forced recruitment, extortion, and constant displacement pressure. Maoist insurgency destroy infrastructure, development deficit, and local exploitation. This is the flow diagram. Government measures for elimination. Samadhan strategy. A comprehensive framework combining proactive police operations, aggressive intelligence gathering, and distinct development keys. Security development, operationalizing elite state force like the Greyhounds alongside specialized central paramilitary battalions, Cobra. Targeted infrastructure push, building essential connectivity through the road requirement plan and setting up Eclavia model school to integrate tribal youth into the national economy. Combining security operations with grassroots developmental inclusion is the key to successfully eliminate the internal threat of LWE by 2026. Okay, so I'm done with the 5 questions of GS3 and now I will jump on to the GS4. Actually, I completed question 1 part 1 A B, 2 part A B, and question number 3 part A. So now I have to continue from question 3 part B. So let's get started. I will complete I will cover 5 questions from this section as well. Question 3. You might think that he is just doing the reading, but believe me, this will gonna help a lot. It's all up to you whether you have to watch it or not. You can just listen. These are like small steps which will create a drastic difference. You will come to see that later. Anyway, question 3B, ethics GS4. The greatest discovery of my generation is that a human being can alter his life by altering his attitudes. Look, if you go by ethics, like the previous year question, if you go through the previous year questions of ethics, you will find that these kind of quotes they asked direct in the essay, like in 2040 to 2024, they asked a essay which was a question in ethics somewhere around 2016 or 17 paper. So do not neglect these, okay? These are questions you have to answer these in 150 words, but try to write an essay on these as well. You never know, right? In 2024, if you see the topic of essay and thereafter you will go back and see the previous year question and even the previous year essays, you will find that there were, I think, if I'm not wrong, because I wrote that mains, and there were at least one essay from the topic was from the ethics section GS4, and I think one essay was repeated from the previous year question paper. So that is why you never underestimate these things. Question 3B. The greatest discovery of my generation is that a human being can alter his life by altering his attitudes. William James. What does this quotation convey to you in the present context? William James emphasizes the power of behavioral psychology and cognitive choices. It indicates that structural transformation is an individual's external life and driven primarily by internal shifts in their attitude, perception, and mental outlook. Contemporary application. Administrative attitudinal shift. Bureaucracies often struggle with rigid, rule-bound system. Cultivating a proactive, citizen-centric attitude turns indifferent public desk into platform for compassionate, efficient service delivery. Example, the transformation of public sanitation under the Swachh Bharat mission succeeded by focusing on shifting community attitudes towards hygiene, overcoming vulnerabilities. On an individual level, shifting from a victim mindset to an empowered approach helps people navigate modern mental health stresses and economic changes. This quote serves as a call to action, reminding us that institutional and personal progress begins with a conscious decision to change our internal attitudes. Question 3, Part C. The strength of a society is not in its laws, but in the morality of its people. Swami Vivekananda. What does this quotation convey to you in the present context? Can you see, guys, if you go through the ethics paper, those days were gone when they ask direct question, what is morality, what is attitude, what is value, and all those things. No. Now they are just asked, because this is 2025, the latest so far. So they are asking, they are giving you quotes. They wanted to test how much you can understand, right? This is a question from morality, but they are not asking it directly. They are asking it through the quotes of the legends, you can say, like in this case, Swami Vivekananda and other historians or political thinker or whatever. So the level of paper is not static anymore. It is increasing and increasing day by day, year by year. Swami Vivekananda explains that while formal laws provide a framework for order, a society's true strength lies in the internalized morality, character, and ethical values of its citizens. Without a moral foundation, legal rules are easily bypassed. This is the flow diagram, like external legal enforcement, restriction, malpractices, superficiality. Internalized social morality ensures organic, lasting social justice. Okay, contemporary application. Limits of legal frameworks. India possesses strict laws against corruption, PCA, and gender violence, POCSO. Yet these issues persist. This shows that legislation alone cannot substitute for a lack of societal empathy and integrity. This is the root cause for India's downfall, guys. The society is not accountable. The population is not accountable for what they are doing, for their deeds. Organic justice, lasting social harmony and public integrity occur when citizens respect the rights of others out of a sense of moral duty rather than fear of legal punishment. Law restricts Law restricts bad behavior, but morality inspires good actions. True nation building requires balancing legal enforcement with a focus on a value-based education. So true. So true. Question 4. For any kind of social re-engineering, by successfully implementing welfare schemes, a civil servant must use reason and critical thinking in an ethical framework. Justify this statement with suitable examples. Social re-engineering involves transforming deep-seated societal habits to drive inclusion development. Achieving this requires combining logical critical thinking with strong moral principles to ensure welfare schemes remain effective and just. Reason and critical thinking optimizes resource delivery and plug leaks. Ethical framework guard empathy, dignity, and public interest. So it must be anchored in this justification with examples. Reasons prevent rule-bound injustices. Critical thinking allows official to see past administrative technicalities to protect human dignity. Example, an administrator using emergency discretion to distribute food rations to a poor family despite biometric verification failures avoids a cold, rigid adherence to rule. Data analytics for social good. Reason helps identify systemic leaks and targeting errors, while an ethical focus ensures data collection protects personal privacy rights under Article 21. Overcoming structural resistance. Driving social adjustments like behavioral shifts under the Swachh Bharat mission requires using rational community persuasion rather than coercive force. Balancing administrative rationality with deep compassion transform public schemes basic assets transfer from basic asset transfer into powerful tools for sustainable social empowerment. What are the major teachings of Mahavir? Explain their relevance in the contemporary world. Now, look, this you can see this is like a question from ancient history directly. You can see, right? Because this is ancient. Mahavir was a part of ancient history, and they are asking directly what are the major teachings. This is an absolute history question, but they connect it with ethics, like explain their relevance in contemporary world. Means you have to go through the teachings of it. Means if you do not know what are or what were his teachings, you cannot connect it with the contemporary world, right? So it is like a amalgamation of history and ethics. Lord Mahavir, the 24th Tirthankara of Jainism, formulated a comprehensive spiritual and behavioral framework centered on absolute non-violence, structural pluralism, and self-restraint to achieve ethical purity. Major teachings: ahimsa, absolute ahimsa, that is non-violence, absolute avoidance of causing harm to any living being through thoughts, words, or deeds. Anek Antwada or Syadwada. Anek, Anekant Vada and Syadwada. Sorry if I am mispronouncing it. The philosophy of structural pluralism and the relativity of truth, recognizing that reality is multifaceted and human perspective are inherently partial. Apargraha, non-possessiveness, limiting personal desires and material accumulation to counter greed. Relevance in the contemporary world, core teaching and evolving global application. Ahimsa serves as a powerful alternative to global conflicts, radicalization, and systemic animal cruelty. Anekantwada, foresters multi-faith tolerance and open dialogue, countering dogmatic echo chambers. Apargraha directly supports SDG 12, responsible consumption, to combat climate change and resource greed. Mahavir's timeless tenets provide a clear ethical framework to guide modern society towards peace, ecological balance, and mutual respect. Question 5. One who is devoted to one's duty attains highest perfection in life. Analyze this statement with reference to sense of responsibility and personal fulfillment as a civil servant. Rooted in the concept of Niskama Karma from the Bhagavad Gita, this statement explains that true professional excellence and deep personal satisfaction are achieved by performing one's duties with complete dedication without worrying about personal rewards. Devotion to public duty, high administrative responsibility, and lasting personal fulfillment. Analysis in civil services. Sense of responsibility. For a public servant, this principle elevates a job into a higher calling, kartavya. It drives a deep commitment to institutional integrity, ensuring that public resources are managed transparently and decisions remain fair as outlined by the Nolan principles. Personal fulfillment. True job satisfaction for an administrator comes from making a real difference in people's lives, such as successfully electrifying a remote village or resolving a public grievance. This intrinsic reward outlasts the temporary prestige of official power. Example, the unyielding dedication of COVID warrior administrators during public health crisis highlights how fulfilling a sense of duty can be. Aligning professional responsibilities with a commitment to public service turns daily administration into a meaningful pursuit of national welfare and personal excellence. So I'm done with the 5 questions of GS4, and now let's get started with the essay. So let's cover essay. This was asked in 2025. Truth knows no color. In the legal annals of ancient Athens, the drying ground of the Areopagus hosted trials under the bare open sky. The judges sat in absolute silence, deliberately shielded from the rhetorical theatricality, socio-economic statures, and political affiliations of the accused. The architecture of justice sought a singular transcendental ideal to strip reality of its secondary superficial characteristics so that the bare unvarnished truth could reveal itself. The core of this ancient practice highlights a timeless truth that genuine truth is inherently colorblind. It does not alter its structural nature based on the varying use of human prejudice, political convenience, cultural variation, or ideological alignments. To declare that truth knows no color is to recognize that objective reality stands completely independent of the subjective lenses through which humanity continuously tries to filter, manipulate, and fragment it. Yet contemporary global society exists in an era of deep fragmentation marked by structural post-truth realities, hyperpolarized echo chambers, and the weaponization of customized identities. In this environment, the pristine, colorless nature of truth is constantly threatened by political spin, cultural biases, and ideological colorings. Society increasingly encounters a fractured spectrum: my truth versus your truth, red truth versus blue truth, and nationalistic narratives clashing with universal realities. This fragmentation creates a profound human dilemma. When truth is forced to take on a color, it ceases to be truth and degrades into propaganda, prejudice, or selective perception. Therefore, it is essential to re examine the objective core of truth. We must trace how human history, philosophy, politics, economics, and science have either preserved its colorless purity or suffered deeply by trying to dye it in the temporary colors of opportunistic convenience. As I said every day, that you do not need to write these headings when you write the real essay, but since we are in practice, so that is why you will see the headings and flowchart in these essay. To understand why truth knows no color, we must first examine its basic philosophical definition. In the classical epistemology, truth is defined by the correspondence theory, which states that a proposition is true if it matches an objective, independent reality. When the ancient Indian sages declared in the Rig Veda, Ekam Sat Vipra Bahuda Vadanti, truth is one, though the wise speak of it variedly. They were not suggesting that truth changes its nature. Rather, they were pointing out that while human interpretation can be colorful and varied, the underlying truth remains unified and uncolored. The colors belong entirely to the human observer's eye, not to the object being observed. This idea is beautifully illustrated by Plato's famous allegory of the cave. The prisoners chained inside the cave perceives the shifting, colorful shadows thrown upon the wall as the absolute truth. These shadows represent the distorted colors of societal convention, unexamined opinions, and sensory illusion. It is only when a prisoner breaks free and climb out into the sunlight that they see the world as it actually exists, illuminated by the pure, clear light of the sun. The sun does not color the landscape, it reveals things exactly as they are. In the same way, the pursuit of truth requires a conscious effort to look past the superficial colors of immediate perception to discover the objective principle underneath. The historical dimension, the heavy cost of colored narratives. Throughout history, whenever societies have tried to color the truth to match their prejudices, the results have been disastrous. Totalitarian regimes throughout the 20th century provided clear warnings of this danger. In the Soviet Union, the state rejected traditional genetics because it did not align with communist ideology. Instead, they embraced proletarian science led by Trofim Lysenko. This politically colored version of biology ignored objective reality, resulting in terrible agricultural failures and widespread famine that cost millions of lives. The state tried to force biology to follow a specific ideological color, but nature refused to comply, showing that objective truth cannot be banned by political willpower. Similarly, the dark history of colonialism shows how powerful nations colored truth to justify global exploitation. European empires created a pseudo scientific theory of scientific racism using distorted biological narratives to claim that white Europeans were naturally superior to other races. This colored truth was used to justify the theft of resources, the subjugation of millions across Asia, Africa, and the Americas. By the time the world recognized this narrative as a self serving lie, centuries of exploitation had already occurred. History shows that whenever truth is dyed in the color of human arrogance or greed, it leads directly to institutional oppression and human suffering. The constitutional and judicial imperative, the blindfold of justice. In modern democratic governance, the principle that truth knows no color is built directly into the legal framework. The universal symbol of justice, a blindfolded woman holding a pair of scales, captured this idea perfectly. The blindfold is not a sign of ignorance. It represents a commitment to objectivity. It means justice must not see the race, caste, gender, economic status, or political power of those who come before the court. The law must look past these superficial colors to evaluate core facts of this case impartially. In the Indian constitutional framework, this principle is anchored in Article 14, which guarantees equality before the law and equal protection of the laws. The Supreme Court of India has consistently protected this colorless standard of truth in landmark judgments. For example, in the state of Karnataka versus Selvi 2010 case, the court ruled that forcing individuals to undergo narco analysis or polygraph test violates Article 20, Clause 3, that is, protection against self incrimination, and the right to privacy under Article 21. The judiciary emphasized that the search for truth must never use methods that violate human dignity or distort justice, reinforcing that the legal discovery of truth must remain fair, objective, and untainted by the administrative overreach. You can see the flowchart. The socio-cultural fabric beyond the lines of caste and creed. In social In social life, human prejudice frequently tries to dye the truth in the specific colors of caste, religion, and community identity. This creates fragmented societal narratives where actions are judged not by what was done but by who did it. This tribal thinking distorts social justice, creating double standards where the exact same action is praised when done by one's own group but condemned when done by an outsider. The life and work of Mahatma Gandhi stood as a powerful rejection of this tribalism. Gandhi centered his entire philosophy on satyagraha, insisting on truth. For Gandhi, truth was not a flexible tool to be altered or to be altered for political convenience or community bias. He famously stated, "Truth is God," emphasizing that truth is an absolute universal reality that transcends all human divisions. His campaign against untouchability was a direct challenge to the colored prejudices of his era. He argued that the practice of caste discrimination was a deep distortion of the spiritual truth that all human beings share the same divine essence. By anchoring his social and political movements in this unyielding commitment to objective truth, Gandhi showed that Gandhi showed that true social reform requires stripping away communal prejudices to recognize our shared humanity. Okay, whatever you think about Gandhi, but you have to write this only in the exam. The economic and scientific realm, the neutrality of data discovery. The worlds of science and economics provide clear proof that truth exists independent of human opinion. This is the quote you can say of the day, like, truth exists independent of human opinion. That is so true. A mathematical equation or a chemical reaction does not change its behavior based on the identity of the person studying it. The laws of physics operate exactly the same way in New Delhi, New York, or Nairobi. When Galileo looked through his telescope and discovered evidence supporting the heliocentric model, his findings directly challenged the colored religious doctrines of the 17th century church. The church forced him to recant and placed him under house arrest, trying to suppress his discovery. Yet their actions could not alter the orbit of the earth. As Galileo quietly muttered, "Eppur si muove," and yet it moves. The objective truth of the solar system remained completely unaffected by the political and religious preferences of the state. In modern economics, data and structural realities display a similar stubborn neutrality. Inflation, fiscal deficit, and rising unemployment figures do not alter their real world impact to suit a government's political public relation campaign. The Economic Survey of India consistently emphasizes that sustainable development requires looking at economic facts clearly and objectively. If a nation ignores real data on rural distress or rising economic inequality, no amount of polished rhetoric can prevent the resulting structural slowdown. Market forces and economic realities eventually expose any attempt to color the data, proving that long term prosperity can only be built on a foundation of unvarnished economic facts. The psychological and media landscape. Navigating the post truth era. In the modern digital age, preserving the colorless nature of truth has become an increasingly difficult psychological challenge. The rise of social the rise of social media algorithms has created powerful echo chambers that cater directly to our cognitive biases. These platforms are designed to feed users information that confirms their existing political and social views, trapping individuals in customized realities. In this environment, truth is frequently colored by our emotional preferences. People are drawn to stories that make them feel validated regardless of whether those stories are factually accurate. This psychological vulnerability has fueled the post-truth era, where objective facts carry less weight in shaping public opinion than appeals to emotion and personal belief. Misinformation campaigns deliberately add emotional and political colors to facts to cause social division and political unrest. When public debate becomes a clash between deeply polarized, colored narratives, the shared ground needed for democratic discussion disappears. Trust in vital public institutions like the judiciary, scientific bodies, and independent media erodes rapidly, leaving society vulnerable to manipulation. Navigating this landscape requires individuals to develop strong critical thinking skills, and the psychological maturity to seek out objective facts even when those facts challenge their personal beliefs. The international arena, geopolitical use, and universal ethics. In international relations, the search for truth is constantly complicated by national self interest and geopolitical rivalries. The field of geopolitics is often driven by realpolitik, where powerful nations routinely color the truth to justify their foreign policies. One nation's freedom fighter is frequently labeled by others as a terrorist, and interventions launched in the name of democratization are often transparent covers for securing valuable natural resources for expanding strategic influence. To counter this destructive cynicism, the international community has worked to establish universal frameworks based on objective truth about human dignity. The Universal Declaration of Human Rights and the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals represent collective effort to rise above national biases. Sorry about that, Buffalo, if you can hear. These frameworks are built on the objective truth that every human being, regardless of nationality, is entitled to fundamental rights, clean water, quality education, and safety from violence. When nations gather at forums like UN General Assembly or the IPCC Climate Summit, long term success depends entirely on their willingness to face global truth objectively, such as the reality of climate change, rather than viewed through the narrow lens of short term national advantage. To see the truth clearly without the distorting colors of prejudice, ideology, or personal bias is one of the highest achievements of human character. It requires intellectual honesty and the courage to accept the reality even when it makes us uncomfortable or contradicts our long-held assumptions. The pursuit of truth is not a passive act. It is an active, lifelong commitment to checking our biases, questioning comfortable consensus, and standing up for objective facts in the face of widespread misinformation. As the world becomes more as the world becomes more interconnected yet politically fragmented, protecting the colorless purity of truth is vital for survival of democratic societies. We must deliberately strengthen our public institutions, safeguard the independence of the judiciary, support free and rigorous scientific inquiry, and cultivate a public culture that values objective evidence over emotional rhetoric. The timeless insights of Rabindranath Tagore's Gitanjali remains our best guide for the future. A vision of a society where the clear stream of reason has not lost its way into the dreary desert sand of dead habits. It is more like a tongue twister. By keeping the stream of human reason clear and uncolored, we ensure that truth remains the steady, reliable foundation for human progress, justice, and universal unity.